And we are live on the pipeline. This is Monad in the Morning, episode 20. Absolutely monster episode lined up today for episode 20. Couldn't be more excited. As always, joined by Kevin and Jessup. How we doing today?
GM,
Good.
doing great.
You know, good old soundboard.
We
Big
had
stream.
Yeah, big stream, huge week, massive week all around. A lot of things happen in the crypto market. One of which, the Mana Foundation acquiring Portal. Very excited to be joined by Keone and Raj on the show very soon to talk about how this came about, what it means, and what to look forward to in the coming months and years.
Exactly. If you somehow missed the headline yesterday, that is correct. The Monad Foundation has acquired Portal, a leading stablecoin infrastructure provider. We will have the Portal CEO, Raj, as well as Monad co-founder and GM here at the foundation, Keone, joining us live on the air today to unpack all the details. Super, super excited to dive into things. But before we do, I know we have many diehard Monad in the Morning super fans from the Monad community here in the chat today. We will be taking questions from the community throughout the episode. So drop them in the chat. If you have a question for Keone, if you have a question for Raj, drop them in the chat. We have some moderators looking out for them. Shout out Savant and Mike Webb, who will be in the chat all episode, picking out great questions. Towards the end of the episode, we'll get into a bit of a community AMA. And for those who have tuned in to Monad in the Morning previously, you know we like to spin the wheel and give away some prizes for the community. This week, we'll be doing it a little bit differently. Of course, we have the wheel, but we'll save it to the end of the episode. And the only way to win a spin on the wheel is to ask a great question in the chat throughout the episode, or create a great live clip and post that on Twitter. Those are the only ways to win a spin of the wheel today. So without further ado, let's bring on Raj and Keone. Super excited to dive into things. Raj, welcome to Monad in the Morning. First ever appearance. Would love to kick it off with a little bit of an intro before we swing over to Keone as well.
Awesome. First off, thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here. Tons of warm welcome from like the Nads and the Monad community. It's been overwhelming, honestly. My heart's full just being in the community here.
Awesome.
And then I'm happy to go into a quick intro as well.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, quick intro. I'm a payments nerd. Started my career at Visa. At Visa, I was helping banks think about security breaches, exploits, and hacks. Was building out a security platform at Visa. Quickly at the intersection of security and payments, starts to get drawn to cryptography, blockchains. Discovered crypto. Realized pretty quickly that open source blockchains were a way more efficient way to move value around the world. And I was sitting, inside Visa, looking at mainframes, kind of facilitating transactions, and I was like, this can't be it. And then from there, second half of my time at Visa was leading crypto products globally. Launched stablecoin settlement. I joked that we were building in stablecoins back before it was cool. This was 6 years ago now. From there, it was enabling banks, issuing banks and acquiring banks to settle transactions in stablecoins over with USDC and Ethereum. As you can imagine, there was a lot to be. There was a lot of progress, but there was still a lot of, I think, flaws and blemishes that blockchains had back then. Left to build Portal. The goal was, as the blockchain space continues to grow, having the right tools, developer tools, infrastructure to then round out the edges was going to be a nice complement for the blockchain ecosystem. And a lot of our goal was to hopefully shield some away the blockchain complexities away from end users. And I think over the years, we realized that a lot of the projects that are working with us for building stablecoin first use cases, like neobanking, like payroll, like freelancer platforms. These are all boring use cases in the whole scheme of things, and it was pretty clear pretty quickly that stable coins in combination with open source blockchains was going to be like the internet settlement layer that we always envisioned. And I think going into the conversation with Monad Foundation, it was it started off with trading notes, brainstorming about the stablecoin landscape to for me looking underneath the hood and realizing like, wait, this is endgame EVM architecture that I've never seen before. This is like Monad and like the protocol could live up to being like the internet settlement layer that I've always envisioned. And so it was really exciting to say, back when I was, at Visa, realizing like the mainframes can't be it. And Ethereum, there was still a lot of blemishes and things we needed to work through, to then seeing, wait, like we are here, stable coins are growing, the Monad blockchain is and the ecosystem is endgame architecture. Like this felt like the right combination too. So long story short, really excited to be here. Really fun story arc that I get to live through here.
Awesome. Well, thrilled to have that background. Thrilled to have you on the show to unpack a bit further. It's a really awesome thing. I think that stables are definitely cool now, and payments are really dominating the conversation in the crypto space. Certainly, Keone needs no intro, but if we could hear some kind of initial reactions to the acquisition and your thoughts on the overall impact before we dive into more details. Would love to hear your perspective, Keone.
Sure. Yeah, I'm really excited to be welcoming Raj and the Portal team. Monad is an effort that has been building up for the past couple of years, introducing new technology. The Monad community is incredibly strong. The Monad ecosystem of builders that are building in the Web3 space is very strong and growing every day. And there's all these different puzzle pieces that are starting to come together. But I think that an area that we definitely acknowledge has a lot of room to grow is just the growth of the Monad protocol in the Web2 space, and specifically in the payment space. So, I personally have a ton to learn from Raj and the rest of the team. Already having a lot of great discussions, and just I feel like my brain is expanding every time Raj and I hop on a call and brainstorm. So I think it's really about a confluence of factors that all come together. The community started a phrase all in one, and I think that does actually really encompass what's going on here. It is the combination of technology, decentralization, community, ecosystem, or Web3 ecosystem, but now payments, stablecoins. And I think the other thing that I want to say is that it's just, at the end of the day, a decentralized, high performance layer one blockchain. The real power of it is that it is borderless. It's not a system that just runs on a single server in a single data center in a single country. The beauty of a really performant layer one blockchain is that it spans borders. The control of it is all across the world. And I think that fits perfectly with, the need to improve money movement and the need to break down asset silos that currently exist right now, where within certain countries, like it's really hard for people to get access to reasonable banking solutions. They pay really high fees. It's really expensive for them to receive money from some other country. And crypto is really all about breaking down those barriers and reducing costs and creating opportunities. I think that the story of Portal and the story of Raj's efforts are really one of solving problems and using blockchain technology to solve this problem. And Monad has kind of been attacking this problem as well from the other side. And now there's this convergence that is incredibly exciting and gives me a lot of excitement and hope for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, couldn't agree more overall. Raj, in your intro, you said two things that I really liked. One is that Monad has the potential to be this endgame EVM infra. Love that tagline. Think it probably couldn't be more fitting. But also that Monad now has the potential to really become the internet settlement layer. Would love to hear in like the simplest terms, as if you're speaking to a fifth grader or someone who's never, you know, participated in crypto or finance. What actually is Portal and what does it enable on Monad?
Yeah. So I think first off, I'm glad to hear that those taglines are hitting well. Wasn't the intent, but I'm glad it's hitting as well. In terms of what Portal is, you can think of us as like complementary developer infrastructure. We make we simplify how you connect to blockchains, how you broadcast transactions. We have embedded wallets built in. You can build policies around, how you set transactions and then actually send that over to different users also. And then we've also been really, really focused on mobile. We've always felt that mobile was like I think a really important, part of like the user experience. And so we've built iOS SDKs, Android SDKs. We've built it in other frameworks also like Flutter or React Native also. But we basically built all the simple developer tools that if you're a Web2 developer and you're working at a fintech or a bank and you're like, hey, like I get stable coins and we want to enable some type of, product here, but I have no idea what RPCs are. I don't know what, nonce management is. I don't know what blockchain to use sometimes as well. But I want to be able to enable my user to have a nice one-click experience where they can send funds to their other friends and family, pay their bills, receive payroll. We provide that complementary infrastructure on top of blockchains. Historically, we've always been chain agnostic. Portal will continue to be, chain agnostic as well. But we're obviously excited about, the Monad ecosystem and what we can do together too.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Raj, one thing that you also said in your introduction, you've been in the stablecoin space for around 5 to 6 years now. First at Visa, then at Portal. Stablecoins, for anyone who's been using crypto for a while, have always been like very functional, right? Like there's a lot of use for them. Like I remember 2017, most people were just trading against Bitcoin for any alts. Circle came out with USDC, Tether had a big blow up. And then all of a sudden it was like everything's dollar denominated instead of Bitcoin denominated. And that was a massive shift in the crypto industry, but it didn't really start to impact the real world. And then I think in the last 6 months, but kind of over the last year and a half, stablecoins themselves have become a massive talking point. It seems like this is kind of like the blessed use case of crypto right now. So I guess I'm curious to hear your perspective on like how has the stablecoin space evolved over the last 5 or 6 years? How has that changed? And then also, where do you see it going over the next 1 to 2 years in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, when it first started, to your point, it was trade settlement. It was I want to move out of my Bitcoin position, my ETH position, and I want to move into stables, and that's where things started. And then a lot of traders started to do some arbitrage by send their USDC to another exchange so they could get some beneficial price on a trade or strategy that they're working on. But that same like that element of, oh, I'm on Coinbase, I can now move to Binance, to now I can move to Bitso, like that's payments. And so like we were traders were doing this already just to move between different positions they've had on different exchanges. But I think crypto as an industry was so focused on like the trade use case that it almost just overlooked that actually payments is what actually it's enabling these workflows from happening too. So I think it was overlooked from that standpoint. The other thing that's really important in payments is volume and circulating supply. And frankly speaking, USDC came out in 2017. Tether was a couple years before that. The volumes were really low. It was like 20 million, hundreds of millions. And when I was talking to executives or folks around Visa, they look at an asset that's 100 million in supply. That's really nothing. Visa's doing billions and billions of transactions. And so it's not one of those things where like it was just immature. It just as an asset class, it was just growing in terms of circulating supply. And I think as the crypto industry grew over time, we started to see that hundreds of millions of circulating supply balloon up to billions to now over 200 billion. And I think that's where you start to see a little bit more price efficiency, where if I'm a user and in the US and I want to pay my friend in Mexico remittances, which is about a $60 billion volume market, I can now convert my fiat into USDC. I can send USDC over to Mexico, and then there's enough liquidity, with that Mexican exchange or off ramp where they can convert out into MXN afterwards. Like that, just like that liquidity and volume didn't quite exist. And I think one stat to give you guys is that, that $60 billion corridor, Bitso, which was like the largest exchange in Mexico, was doing about 1% of that, maybe about 2022. Fast forward to today, they're doing about 10% of that corridor in terms of stablecoins. And so you're starting to see like orders of magnitude change where maybe it feels really small, like in like a nominal dollar terms, but as a step function change, it's pretty massive. 1 to 10% of an entire corridor in stablecoins is pretty big, and that's just market structures. It's order books getting more efficient. It's like pricing getting more efficient, liquidity flowing too. So I think that's the big change. And I think as developers and like startups and as enterprises, they were like, oh wait, it's 10% of a quarter is actually pretty meaningful. We should probably be thinking about a strategy, because if folks are, actually wanting, this type of form factor and use case, we should be enabling it. And I think the other thing that became pretty obvious after a while is that when you do payments, typically the end recipient expects their local currency. So like in the US to Mexico case, you send your funds to your friends or family, they get MXN. But sometimes people are asking for, how about I just keep dollars? Like I don't want my local currency anymore. And that just doesn't exist with the existing like infrastructure today. Like the bank's like, no, we can't offer you dollars. That's only reserved for high net worth individuals that can create like a dollar denominated account. With stable coins, like anyone around the world can just hold dollars in their own country. And that's really powerful because it gives them the ability to opt out and give them optionality, versus just to always be beholden to their local currency as well. And so, I would say like the short answer is that maturation in terms of overall liquidity and volume, that dovetailing into when you see 10% of a corridor, more enterprises and startups are saying we should be building with this. There's clearly a demand over here. To then now cascading to other use cases like payroll and even the most simple use case, like how do I hold dollars outside the United States?
Yeah, I know from anyone who's been like paying attention to crypto, even loosely for the last 2 or 3 years, it's like, oh, stablecoins is a killer use case. Like it almost sounds trite at this point. You're like, yeah, obviously this is like a great thing. But I think the reason it's become like a trite thing to say is it does just make more sense, right? It enables an objective improvement over what traditional finance can offer. And I know, Keone, you've talked a lot about this in the past, like what stablecoins and payments means for the world, like breaking down some of the silos. I think when people saw the Portal acquisition announcement yesterday, they probably had 2 thoughts. The first one is, oh, Portal, like now all of this functionality that Portal is working on, like that will directly impact Mana and allow for more, open up more payment flows to actually exist on the chain. And I think the second is almost a signaling to the market, to anyone who's following Monad, of like, this is something that the Monad Foundation is taking very seriously. They see as a massive strategic opportunity. And, the fact that we just want to move in that direction and make sure that, Monad can have an impact in allowing stablecoin payments to, go from 200 billion in circulation to 5 trillion and have it actually be useful for people and for institutions. I guess the question would be, how do you think about the stablecoin space, and like, how does it kind of fit into what you would like to see Monad to be used for? Like any strategy from the Monad side of going into a market and trying to make it more efficient?
I think that when people start using stablecoins, that experience kind of immediately helps them understand the value of crypto overall. So I think that first of all, stablecoins are like a Trojan horse almost for the overall effort that that we all have, not just at the Monad Foundation, but more generally, to see decentralized tech take over the world. There are significant benefits to utilizing decentralized tech as the base layer for storing user assets, for giving users access to their data and control of their data. And I think stablecoins are really the easiest way for a lot of people to grasp the benefits of crypto and start using crypto rails. And we see that both from the business side, with many businesses suddenly being able to accept payments a lot more easily by accepting payments over crypto rails. And we also see that from the user side with, as Raj said, folks getting access to dollar-based neobank accounts for the first time, or folks being able to send money to their relatives in another country really seamlessly, really cheaply. I think that at the end of the day, one of the big benefits of stablecoins and crypto more generally is really trust, or rather trustlessness. If you think about how people get access to dollars when they're in a different country, there's some sort of custodial arrangement where there's an institution that they have to trust who's then holding dollars on their behalf. Or just more generally, like with asset silos, you're trusting some institution to hold a bunch of stuff for you. And I think that one of the really powerful things about decentralized systems is that you don't just have to trust that one entity. And when we change the game, like when we change the overall premise that we don't have to trust a single centralized entity, then it just opens up a lot of possibilities, because now all of a sudden people that used to have to trust a very not trustworthy bank in their local jurisdiction, now they can actually just utilize the entire global system where control is federated. And anyway, all of this is just to say that I think the initial, when people start using stablecoins through maybe an app that they already have that starts enabling crypto wallets and allowing users to take payments over crypto rails, then they start to see the benefits, and then that just allows the entire system to grow, for all of crypto, not just for Monad, but by making this, by joining together Monad and Portal, we definitely feel much more equipped to lead the charge and help steward that change.
Yeah, I know we've seen you talk about like the trustlessness aspect, and I think it's very important. Like, you're seeing this happen in the market when big players who have the intention of bringing in, $1 billion or maybe even like $10 billion plus into the market, they're kind of choosing one of two options. Either one, a centralized either sequencer, like having their own L2, like something that they trust because it's them running it, or a decentralized blockchain because they know that they don't have to trust anyone. But if you're putting $10 billion on chain and you're just like trusting this other guy in a multi-sig to not take $10 billion from you, like it just doesn't make sense for them. And so we've seen this, like some very large institutions are coming in and saying, we're just going to have our own chain, or they're trusting the decentralized nature. So yeah, and to your point, Keone and stablecoins being a Trojan horse, I think it's a Trojan horse for use case and also for explaining why crypto is important. Like I remember I was trying to explain Monad to my mom like 2 years ago, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And then I was like, all right, how about this? There's stablecoins you can pay each other. Right now, Ethereum does about 10 transactions per second. Like L2s can maybe do a couple hundred. I was like, Visa does about 2,000 transactions per second. And so there's no chain out there right now that could take all of Visa's volume. Like it just can't be built on chain. Monad at 10,000, like you could have Visa and their whole thing could run on chain. And she was like, oh, wait, that's cool. That's why throughput matters and why decentralization matters. I was like, there we go. But yeah, I'll pass it over to you, Dan.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up here, but before I hop into that, for anyone who's just tuning in here today, we are unpacking the Portal acquisition by Monad Foundation, joined by Raj, co-founder of Portal, and Keone, GM here at the Monad Foundation. Seeing some awesome chats, or questions rather, come from the community in the live chat. We'll be opening up a little bit of a community AMA in just a few minutes here. But before we do, I'm also interested to double click on what this means for people who are building apps in crypto, especially those looking to onboard net new users that aren't already set up with a non-custodial wallet, for example, and who have kind of practiced transacting in the current on-chain landscape. What is this going to open up for those developers and app teams?
I think it's a starting point. I mean, I think it opens up the design space, right? I think we've always thought about DeFi, NFTs, and in the Web3 space broadly, but I think the design space of, wait, I can actually leverage a lot of the primitives of self custody wallets to enable like a remittance app or a payroll app, or so I'm really excited to see like the Monad community to start to experiment with different use cases around stablecoins also. And I think my job is to help as much as I can, right? Whether it's making introductions or providing product feedback, because at this point I've seen basically every type of implementation possible as well. So I think that's what I'm really excited about. And we're already starting to see companies like like Kraken recently launched Krak, KRAK, which is a really interesting name choice, but nonetheless like a rebrand. But it's their basically taking all the same tech that they've been using for many years, and they repackaged the UX to just be like a stablecoin product for borderless finance, right? So I think we're starting to see that happen even more, where there's no tech changes. There's a small repackaging, and the goal is to then expand the TAM of users and make crypto more approachable as well. And so I'm really excited about that. I think there's a ton of different infrastructure companies across the Monad Foundation that are already supported. We'll continue to work with all of them, pretty closely. And then more importantly, I think just like continue to expand the design space even further.
Yeah, absolutely. It also makes me wonder, building Portal initially as this chain agnostic protocol, and obviously it will still continue to be chain agnostic to a degree, but would love if you can share any insights, Raj, from behind the scenes as to really what gave you the conviction to really lean into Monad.
Yeah, I mean, I think one question, I work with a lot of Web2 developers, right? And sometimes their introduction to crypto is just stable coins. But they're like, oh, wait, we need to pick a chain. Like, Raj, which chain should I use? And then it just becomes a really tough question for me to be like, oh, so like, what are you indexing on? Do you want high throughput? Do you want there's L2s, there's L1s, And it just becomes a really tough like set of questions where they actually, funny enough, have no pre-existing bias, right? They're really just looking for the most like highest performant like product that they can leverage. Um, and I think for me, like it starts to create this like large cognitive load for a developer who's just like, I really just want to build this product. Like, I don't want to have to do like a pros and cons list for like every single blockchain. And I think it obviously made my role like a lot tougher because I want to stay chain agnostic and neutral, but at the same time, like, these are really real, valid questions that a developer is asking also. And then I think the other part is, there wasn't like a one size fits all that I saw. There was, either fragmentation liquidity or, maybe there was some is really slow. And so I didn't feel like I was really equipped to enable that developer to move really fast to say, hey, just go with this protocol and then off you go. Like, don't worry about that as much, right? I think now, after searching and building in this space for a while, and like I said earlier, like looking underneath the hood of like what the Monad ecosystem has really built. And that's why I joke and I call it endgame EVM architecture because we've had the pain of dealing with non-EVM chains. We've had the pain of dealing with bridges and multiple like different layers of the stack on the EVM side. And what I saw with Monad was all the hindsight that we've kind of faced and all the issues that we face all solved and packaged into one. And so I think that was like the most important thing for me here. And so now that we can hopefully streamline that really simple question of what chain I should build on, and it should be, hey, do you want to be built on the newest architecture and end game architecture? That's Monad.
Endgame architecture all in one. Super excited. I think we should hop over to some questions from the community. We have quite a lot coming in from the chat, and one that I would love to jump into is for Keone from community member Mirth Mono. Why Portal? What unique strengths did you see, Keone? Did Monad see in Portal that essentially gave you the conviction to go forward with a strategic acquisition versus more of like a loose relationship, I guess?
Yeah, it's actually quite a number of different really powerful aspects of Portal, as well as the Portal team. I would say number one is really the product that exists today is extremely powerful. It is really easy for any developer, whether they're Web3 native or whether they're really new to Web3, and more like a Web2 company developer, to immediately start utilizing crypto and stablecoins and immediately add crypto and stablecoins to any app. And I think that, within our team, we talk a lot about adoption and how to really grow the adoption of crypto. But we also recognize that at least the early days of Monad were really focused on the other side of the problem, which is a very low level optimization. And, I recognize that the Portal team has been at a different place in the stack, which has caused them to develop really deep empathy for developers and really strong knowledge of what is needed. And they've turned that into building a really powerful SDK and MPC wallet solution, and just a really powerful onboarding, just a really powerful SDK and structure that supports a lot of developers. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is really the deep expertise and knowledge of the entire Portal team, but definitely including Raj. Raj is, he really has been putting in the work to grow crypto adoption over a number of years, and doing that from within Visa, and then doing that by building a new product from scratch. I think I just have a ton of respect for what he has done and have really enjoyed collaborating with him and now working directly with him. I think it's going to be huge for the adoption of crypto overall. And yeah, the entire team, but especially Raj, really brings a unique strength and unique conviction and long-term mindset that I think are that our team really appreciates and that will have a huge impact on the space. And then I guess lastly, I would say, so number one, product, number two, team, and then number three, just the fit. Like, I think there's a lot of commonalities between our team's cultures. Everyone at the Portal team is super, they're just really good people. And that makes a huge difference in terms of the bond that we're now building and the long-term mindset that we all have. We're trying to do something quite challenging within the Monad Foundation. It's not easy to change the shape of how money flows in the entire world. It's not easy to grow a new layer one ecosystem from scratch. Fortunately, we're incredibly supported by the Monad community. There's an incredibly strong and growing stronger every day group of builders in the Monad ecosystem. So it really is up only, but it makes a huge difference, basically having a team that is very long-term minded as well and that shares those values. So I think in all, like it just really does feel like a great match where we're putting together different puzzle pieces, different strengths that we all have, that we all bring to the table. And so I think all of those things in aggregate were what gave us the conviction to move forward with great excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. One element that I really liked there was what you just said. The mission, or part of the mission at least, is to change the shape of how money flows across the entire world. That's obviously very ambitious, but very exciting as well. And it directly relates to one of the questions that I just saw come across the chat from community member Henry 58290, who asks a question which is in my anticipation going to be a pretty brief answer. But the question is, will users be able to make stablecoin payments directly on Monad via Portal from day one of mainnet? And I think the answer is definitely yes. Although please correct me if I'm wrong. But what I actually want to point out, or actually ask of the chat rather, is who in the Monad community or who tuning in today is using stablecoins for payments in their daily lives already. I think that would be interesting to get a little bit of a lens into. So if you're following along in the chat and you're already using stablecoins for payments on a daily basis, raise your hand, drop a comment. I think it would be pretty cool to see the level of adoption that we're already at here, because certainly some regions, some areas of the globe are really benefiting from the opportunity to use stablecoins for payments, and certainly more and more will with time. But as those answers are coming in, I don't know, Keone or Raj, if you want to elaborate at all on the day one experience on mainnet with stablecoins and what that might look like.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say definitely, and USDC is already live in testnet for Monad as well. So it's there's already a lot of, I think, legwork and foundation already built. And I think to your point, I would be really excited to hear from the community on like what's being built, how they're using it, right? Because I think that's all just really good foundation for like what this could look like in the future. And then as we proceed into like continued development and expanding the ecosystem further, I think that will, I think stablecoin usage and adoption, to like what Keone said, will be a Trojan horse for like even more crypto usage. So I'm excited to, hear from the community and collaborate. Like, please, shoot me a DM or reach out to me on Twitter, and like I would love to jam on that too.
Yeah, I'm seeing these answers roll in the chat. It definitely seems like there's quite a bit of people already using stablecoins. Some regions it's a little bit less friendly or a little bit more friction filled at current stages. But yeah, it's really exciting to see that progress and to have a lot of hope for this in the future as well come mainnet.
Yeah, Zane commented on the tweet yesterday, and he was like, if I can use my local currency, I think actually shout out Tunes for creating this graphic. He creates a lot of graphics. A lot of them are not very good. This one was great for Portal. And it was like local currency, couple seconds, USDC on the app or the payment that you want. And Zane was like, if I can use my local currency to put USDC on Rarebet Sports, play there, and then pull it out back to my local currency, he's like, I'm onboarding every single person I know. Like that just fixed the biggest pain point for us. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of excitement. People are already starting to get the gears turning on how they can use this. Should they use it? Should they actually ping the apps that they're excited to use and be like, can you guys please integrate with Portal so we can get this frictionless UX? Raj, I'm going to give you, without revealing what the questions are, I'm going to give you a choice. One is kind of a more simple explainer. One is more asking about your speculation or prediction on certain things. Which one would you like to go with?
I'm happy to do both. I'm happy to do both. If you,
Cool.
if I want to, I'm down to answer questions. Let's do both.
Cool. All right. This one, yeah, I think this one is this. We'll start with the simple explainer, just because I introduced it first. This question comes from Amazing A Rich. He says there was a lot of hype around plasma in stablecoins. Explain, as if I'm dumb, what is the difference between Portal and plasma? What are the advantages of Portal, and what could it mean for the Monad ecosystem as a whole? So I think the real question is like, kind of what is plasma, and then what is Portal? How are they different? I think in a lot of people's heads, it's like, oh, stable coins. Like they don't understand the nuance and the difference between the two.
Yeah, so I think first off, like Plasma is my understanding is a blockchain itself, and it's like hyper focused on stable coins, right? Portal is not a blockchain. We are a developer infrastructure tool. So we are a complementary set of infrastructure that makes it easier to use blockchains. And so slightly different. I think there's some shared principles, right, around making having stable coins become a first class citizen, and making it easy to move. But we're definitely coming at it from like a developer point of view, where I'm building a mobile app, I'm building some type of platform. I'm a business that needs to move money somewhere else. The way that business or that user moves money can be via plasma and stable coins, but it can also be USDC on Monad as well, right? And so slightly different in terms of infrastructure set, but in terms of shared principle, very very similar. And I think we're bringing a lot of that to the Monad ecosystem too.
Perfect. It's almost like Monad plus Portal is a little bit more similar to Plasma.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we'll do the kind of more speculative or prediction side. The question is from Kutzal the Holy. Kutzal asks, what kind of regulations do you expect for like corporate payments and cryptocurrency? And I'll frame the question a little bit differently, right? I think we've seen really, yeah, like I said, over the last 6 months, like a lot of tailwinds come in, and cryptocurrency payments via stablecoins basically be like, all right, everyone agrees this is a good idea. We want this to work. Like Circle IPOs, they're creating legislation to allow stablecoin adoption to proliferate. we've seen a slow, steady growth up to like 200 billion. I think a lot of people expect that to get much larger. So I guess, yeah, like from working on the stablecoin side of crypto for so long, like what kind of market changes or what things do you see coming to play in the future? Like what do stablecoins look like 2 years from now that are different from right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like first off, I think regulatory clarity is just getting better and better, which is awesome. I think historically as an industry, we've been self-regulating as much as possible and like doing our very best. It's exciting to see like new regulation come into play because what that does, it actually opens up the banks, the incumbents, like the traditional companies to say, oh, wait, I'm not going to be, criticized or ridiculed for actually dealing with crypto and blockchains. I can actually use it. There's clear frameworks around it as well. So a lot of this, the regulation actually creates more tailwinds for, don't be surprised if you see a major bank that says, hey, yeah, we're now using combination of stable coins and blockchains for, internal settlement. And then what that actually does is that the $200 billion circulating supply that we were talking about before, that starts to quickly grow because you now have new entrants that are much bigger, that have a lot more capital at place too, where the $1 trillion mark for stablecoin as an asset class actually doesn't look that. It actually looks and actually might be more of a conservative view, right, in terms of how you see the space actually growing. So I think all these things like work with each other, and I think the beautiful thing is that when you have clear regulation, you have incumbents and like larger players enter the space, you see volume start to grow as well. You actually have efficiency from like an on and off ramp point of view between all these different FX currencies. And the moat that Swift and correspondent banking has had for a very long time starts to erode pretty quickly. So, we're not that far off. And, I think with the Circle IPO and like, more ongoing regulatory clarity, and more entrants from like, the Robinhood and like the Fiservs and like, all these different, incumbents start to enter the space. Things are just improving, and I would say like I've talked to many traditional payment companies, platforms, enterprises. They're all thinking about stable coins in some capacity. They're all like forming teams. They're all building something around it, and and everyone sees it as a big opportunity to like push payments and money movement into the future too.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a follow up here, but before I jump into that, for anyone who's just joining us, we're taking questions from the community for Raj and Keone regarding the portal acquisition by Monad Foundation. And this is Monad in the Morning. We will be spinning the wheel and giving away some prizes for the community, but we will do that at the end of the show. The way to get a spin is to ask a great question in the chat. This question is for both Raj and Keone, and it's definitely more on like the forward-looking perspective. But Raj, you have this unique background coming from Visa, co-founder of Portal. You've seen a lot of different elements, I think, of this payment space. Now you're joining Monad Foundation as the head of stables and payments. This question comes from Sin Darity in the community and essentially asks, how will combining Portal's infrastructure and the Monad blockchain impact the speed, cost, and availability of cross-border stablecoin payments? And more importantly, what I really want to double click on is, what specific steps do you take to ensure the mass adoption of this technology, particularly among traditional institutions? So the tech is there. How do you make sure that this actually gets adoption from the big players in Web 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, we have to make the developer experience like super simple. Like you have to understand that when you're talking to a developer at a bank or some kind of large payment platform, this might be their first experience ever dealing with blockchains. Like they're not familiar with the different nuances and complexity that blockchains present. And so developer experience is actually going to enable better user experience afterwards. So we have to speak in their terms in some capacity, and I think it requires a lot of patience as well. So I think that's I think what we've done at Portal is that we've tried to make that developer experience really simple, where they don't have to think about those things. And I think once you're able to have that developer have that aha moment where they're like, "Oh wait, I just moved funds for the first time," and we've seen this over and over again, and it's a really cool feeling that never gets old when you have a TradFi developer move stables on a blockchain. They go to and sometimes they go to a block explorer after we introduce it, and they see that transaction settle. They're like, "Whoa, that was really cool." It changes the game for them altogether. So I think our job is like, how do we get these developers to that aha moment in as fast as possible? And then what that actually does, going back to your first question, is that if these big players can come in as they bring more capital, it starts to create more efficiency. Efficiency isn't created just with developer experience; it's created with more capital and like more liquidity and volume. And I think we've seen that in the trading world for decades at this point too. And so actually unlocking that developer actually unlocks more capital into the space as well. And then it creates like this beautiful flywheel that we can work on together to grow the entire pie as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great take. And I actually want to take a quick moment to plug your Twitter, Raj, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of alpha and follow up insights to this announcement. So for anyone who's tuning in today, definitely go follow Raj on Twitter. It is at RAJPAREKH_. Jessup, maybe we can get that on the.
There's a lot of nerdy payment takes coming your way, guys, and so I hope you're ready for it. Sometimes I get inspired, and there's a lot of nerdy stuff out there. So hope you guys enjoy it. And
if they're listening to this Mana in the morning, I think you have 100% overlap between people that are watching the stream and also want nerdy payment takes. So it's a good audience to put the word out to.
Yeah, another good question, kind of along these lines. Again, comes from Henry 58290. Henry's on fire today. But what role will the Monad community play in helping grow the adoption of Portal after integration? I would imagine there's many ways that the Monad community can play a role in helping out there. But curious what comes to mind with this global, distributed, and incredibly active Monad community that exists in this pre-mainnet environment. What does the opportunity look like for a community member to really help bring this to global fruition?
I think there's a few things that come top of mind right now, and then I think the first one is that we want to collaborate to build like the best in class use cases and apps and products with on the Monad ecosystem, and we want to do that with the community. We want to make crypto and blockchains really approachable for everyone, and we want to do that with everyone. And so I think that's like first off. Second is that we want to also push the thinking of like what's possible. I think there's a lot of there's obviously a lot of interest and excitement around stable coins, but the design space is still like up for grabs, and I think that's for us to really determine. Like we actually have the ability to create and forge our own future here. And so I would actually encourage the Monad community to like, let's get creative together, right? Let's not use the pre-existing paradigms of how like money movement and payments have worked. Let's try to turn it on its head and build new use cases together. And hopefully what we can do on like what the Portal team and all of us can do together is actually just create these new use cases, right? And collaborate, and then we can showcase that to the banks, the TradFi folks, right? And we can show them like, hey, here's how we're pushing the needle on like what's possible. And I think like one example that I joke about all the time is that Venmo today is actually a US based product only. Like if you don't really know what Venmo is, it's really easy to assume that you can send that a Venmo to Europe or Asia. It's actually not the case. And so there's even like there's a lot of like low hanging fruit and just like what incumbents have done for decades that we can tip on its head pretty quickly with with open source blockchain ecosystems and projects. And so I'm really excited to collaborate with the Monad ecosystem and build new products and apps and services, but also like let's push the thinking on like what's and be even more creative and not let the past predict I think decide the future as well.
Beautiful. This question is from Chico Arose _nad. So shout out Chico. And it builds a little bit on, I think, what my answer might have been for how can the community help. But Chico asks, is Monad already seeking partnerships for this new acquisition? And by partnerships, I believe he means like onboarding new companies that can integrate with Portal and allow payments to flow. Chico says, as far as I understand, this will help connect Web 2 and Web 3, but are there any apps or companies interested? And I think he's more asking about like, who are the end kind of clients of Portal, or who would integrate Portal that would allow payments to go through?
I mean, as a starting point, our goal is to really reduce the friction for Web 2 companies, right? As just like a first principle. That could mean like you're a cash network, right? Who's historically never introduced or even thought about stable coins. It could mean you're a merchant payment platform that allows a merchant to like receive payments, right? And so we're really interested and excited, and we're actually already collaborating with many of these types of companies today. But I think that's what we want to do, and also we want to take an ecosystem approach where there's a lot of developers already building with stablecoins too, and so we want to help them and provide feedback, provide developer tooling, provide anything that we can to like grow and enable their product in a best-in-class fashion. So I think those two things is like what we're excited about, and we're already doing. I mean, Portal is operating as is and is continuing to like move, and that'll continue to happen as well.
I think, and maybe a shorter follow-up question. I'd imagine there's probably two segments. One are like smaller companies that would use Portal in a self-serve manner, and then other larger companies that you guys actually talk to in a BD relation to try to onboard. Yeah, I guess, are those kind of the two segments that you guys look at? And then the kicker would be, if you're in the Monad community and you want to pay with stables at your local restaurant or coffee shop, you could go and pitch them. That's how you could help Portal's adoption. Get them on.
And there's a lot of other like platforms and infrastructure companies that sit in different parts of the stack, from like FX to card issuing to embedded wallets to ones that we can collaborate with. And then from there, if you have a local business or some type of enterprise or company that's interested, like let us know, put us in touch, and we can start to design like the best in class experience also.
Yeah, it's actually making me think of like a personal experience that I have not had yet that I would like to see. So my father owns a small business, and lately he's been asking me, how can I use AI to accelerate my business, essentially? And what I really want him to ask is, how can I use crypto to accelerate my business? And it seems like innovations like this get us a little bit closer to that state where some of the traditional businesses are actually looking at crypto as a real opportunity to facilitate better payments, better transactions, and ultimately streamline their business. But that's just a little anecdote from my personal experience. I actually wanted to bring up another question, coincidentally, from Chico Arose _nad,
double
who actually asked the last question as well. This one might be the best person to answer it is probably James Hunsaker, but let's try and make do, because I think it's an important topic to understand. And the question is, if Monad is used in the future as a way to transfer money between countries and for card transactions, it may need to withstand even more than 10,000 TPS to compete with these traditional incumbents. Does Monad have plans to increase the max TPS value in the future? And ultimately, increase the performance of the system.
It does, yeah. There's actually a number of interesting projects that are underway that won't land right at mainnet, but will be, I guess, in a pipeline of releases sometime after mainnet that include upgrades to the consensus mechanism to increase the throughput and increase the validator count while still maintaining that really very reasonable bandwidth constraints that that nodes have. Additionally, there's a lot of work on the compiler-based optimizations for the virtual machine, which makes the transactions run faster. There's a lot of work on more robustly dealing with or anticipating conflicts where that currently trigger re-execution of transactions. And there's some really interesting techniques that are being used to speed up execution even further then. So, I mean, those are like some of the hints at specifics, but I think more generally, the Category Labs team is super talented, very, very stacked team that's working really hard, not only to finalize the last changes that will be released before the mainnet, but also looking toward the future and making a lot of other improvements. So yeah, it's very much up only, but there's a lot of specific things that are in the pipeline that we're really excited to share in more detail at a later point in time.
That's what we like to hear. Yeah, that's the baseline. The minimum viable product will be at mainnet. A lot of cool features will be added, performance upgrades definitely in the pipeline. Also, one call out, I know, Chico, in the question that you'd put in the chat, you said, if I'm not mistaken, systems like MasterCard can withstand 1 million TPS. Visa can withstand, and this is from a quick Google search, but also 3 different places said the same thing. So I'm going to say this as truth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Visa can withstand about 24,000 transactions per second, and MasterCard can do about 5,000. Their real world averages, Visa does about 2,000 and MasterCard does anywhere from 500 to 1,000. So to answer your question, at 10,000, yes, you could have both Visa and MasterCard running at the exact same time on Monad, and it would not even saturate half of the throughput. It's a lot of throughput. I think people sleep on how much 10,000 transactions per second are. Very rarely would you ever need more than that. But yes, you could take Visa and MasterCard. You'd probably take all the other credit cards, slap them on top, and it'd run just fine. I don't have a follow-up to that, Danny. What do you got here? Any other questions?
Is there a Visa Mafia versus like MasterCard Mafia rivalry or anything like that?
It's really funny you say that, but I think the short answer is no. It's because there's way more, I would say, Visa founders. I'm tooting my own horn and like being very biased over here. There's way more Visa, alumni that are building companies as we speak right now. So I think it's pretty clear we're blowing it out of the water right now. But maybe in the future that changes. No shade on the MasterCard folks, but yeah, it's I definitely have a built-in competitive fire. So when you mentioned that question, it was a pretty clear answer for me.
Raj, do you think we could ever see Visa moving their payments rails over to Monad?
I would just say never. I think all of it. I think in the future, you never know what the future holds, and I think all of it is possible. So. I think we have a lot of work to do. Rolling our sleeves up right now. There's a ton to do to get things rolling, and then never say never. You never know what the future holds.
True. 5 trillion stablecoins in circulation. That was someone asked you at the circle. They're like, "This stock seems like it's going crazy. What's going on?" And I was like, "Dude, it's not like you're focusing on. If you're thinking about circulating right now, you're looking at the wrong metric." Like with every tailwind in the world, crypto accelerating, globalization occurring, US dollar dominance increasing, like Why do you think it is at 5 trillion? Like, I don't know. It seems very, very, very obvious where the world is moving. And I think everyone who's paid attention to crypto like sees it as the most obvious thing in the world, that stablecoins in circulation are going to increase. They're going to become adopted more. And now it feels like a mad dash to just eliminate all friction points from the entire stack to allow it to just take over the world. Like, you almost go back to the software is eating the world article, and it's like stable coins are eating payments. Like, they just will, right? It's objectively more efficient. It's a better way to do it. And right now it's like just actually executing, right? It's a solved thing. It just needs to actually take the work to get to that point.
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up there because, like, okay, stable coins, yes, they're poised to eat the world, but even within crypto, there's many different visions and like potential approaches to actually bring that to fruition. Raj, you're now doing this in a very decentralized environment, and presumably that's been kind of the vision all along. But why does decentralization matter?
Man, I think you're getting my payment nerd hat on right now, because actually most payment systems actually start decentralized, believe it or not. When you look at the early origins of Visa back in 1960, it was actually you could think of it as like a set of validators that were banks that were actually enabling the Visa ecosystem, and Visa only got centralized in the last like 15 years or so. Um, Same with Swift. Swift is an association of many banks around the world, which is it's considered an association from a framework standpoint. DTCC and what, like, trade settlement for U.S. equities is also a decentralized organization with a bunch of members involved. And so actually, like, what blockchains is doing is actually not that radically different from what we've seen historically from payment systems, which is why, like, when I saw blockchains and I saw the decentralized nature of it, I was like, wait, this is like a perfect stepping stone to like the future of what money movement and this new type of internet settlement system should look like. I think before it was it's a byproduct of just the technology that was available to us. Obviously, in the 1960s, there wasn't that much, I think, innovation. There was still a lot to be proven. Fast forward to today, we're living at the best time when we have hindsight, we have new innovation that's grown over years also. So decentralization, it may sound like counterintuitive, but to most folks, but is actually like the origin story of most payment systems for the last like century, and I think is actually a really great combination of like blockchain architectures also. So it actually doesn't really feel that weird to me. In fact, it actually feels normal and it's actually expected, and I'm excited for it to grow even more as well. I don't think folks were expecting that answer, but I thought my payment nerd hat again just went off, and so I wanted to share that.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. And I'm curious, like, when you talk to institutions, is that a big part of the conversation? Like, hey, this is how these systems were originally built. Now we can do this in a much better way because of what blockchain ultimately enables. Like, is this a big part of the BD conversation, essentially, when you talk to these institutions?
Yeah, I mean, totally. It's funny because I think a lot of folks have lost sight of like the origin stories of like some of the original payment systems as well. So it's almost like a quick reminder to be like, hey guys, this is how like these systems actually grew up and became to be what we have today. So it's a short reminder, and then it's going into like, hey, here's how things are being done differently, and here's how the future actually is going to look like. So I think that's what those conversations look like, and I think I always tend to use history just as like a reminder for folks, as a refresher, because there's a lot that we can learn from history, and I think a lot that we can carry into like what the future also holds too.
So
Yeah,
we
definitely.
have, I'm assuming actually we're running up on time in some form. I have a question that like we've been getting a lot of the same questions. This one was just different, so I figured it would be cool to just see. And Raj, we recently became coworkers and good buddies, so I want to be able to throw this on you and just see what this sounds like. This is from Monkey Duffy 111. Monkey Duffy asks, can Monad, and I'm going to assume that he means Portal in this case, can they build cards to allow for daily payments? Like, is that a potential way that people could interact with Portal? I know it's obviously not a feature right now, but yeah, crypto cards in general, is that part of the roadmap here? Or like, what do you think about these as a way to be able to use crypto and payments in real people's daily lives?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we're definitely thinking about. I think, the goal would be like, it could be potentially a module in the future, right? Start to think about, what is the community looking for? What are developers looking for? There's also a lot of great companies, in the ecosystem today, like Rain or Bridge, that are also kind of building some of this infrastructure as well that we can collaborate with, as at the same time too. So 100%, I think card rails will continue to exist. Back when I was at Visa, we didn't see, there was a real threat that blockchains and stablecoins had, and our goal at Visa back then was, how do we, embrace these changes and start to enable some of these form factors, with the existing Visa system. And Visa, like, one of the things that launched there was stablecoin settlement. And so it's, I think there's an opportunity here where card rails, can continue to exist. You can spend your dollars anywhere in the world, and then you can settle transactions, on a blockchain with USDC or USDG or some of the stable coins that exist today. So I think all that's very possible in in a near-term future too.
Yeah, another question that I think is good, and it's just coming across the chat right now from 0x Astronomica, is how does Monad Foundation having acquired Portal, and with the native integration, like how does this position Monad against other L1 incumbents in the space?
A hard
I would
question.
say, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll turn it over to Keone after, but I guess like the first thought is, Portal will continue to work with all chains, right? We're continuing to be like Portal will continue to be a neutral infrastructure stack. I think at the same time, the goal is like really push the design space and like get use cases and apps out there as fast as possible. And so I think one way you could think of it as an advantage is that we just have a lot of developer empathy, and we're going to be working pretty closely with the ecosystem and the community that exists today. And then we'll continue to like use that velocity to then push the narrative and thinking and creativity around what stablecoins and app development looks like with blockchains too.
Yeah, totally agreed. And I would just add that Monad is really uniquely positioned because Monad is offering the combination of really high performance, really low fees, full EVM compatibility, and a really high degree of decentralization. And I think that all of these attributes are really important to payments processors and stablecoin issuers and financial institutions. So it's quite exciting that through the acquisition of Portal, Monad is strengthening the overall Monad focus on stablecoins, both from a go-to-market perspective, as well as from a developer empathy perspective, as well as from a pure SDK and tooling perspective. But really, Monad is actually uniquely positioned relative to all other competitor chains in the space because it's that unique combination of EVM compatibility, high performance, low fees, and decentralization. And I think maybe one thing that people don't think about as much is the power of the EVM. But realistically, whenever I talk to enterprises or bigger companies that are making a foray into the Web3 space, it is actually extremely important for them to be able to plug into common standards. And the EVM really is that dominant standard. They don't want to build something that then is like incompatible a couple of years later, or is incompatible with the broader space of how crypto works. So having that combination of EVM, high performance, and high degree of decentralization are really the all-in-one package that that makes it a no-brainer for folks to get on board and get excited and get building.
Definitely.
Mr. Pipelines.
We've gotten through quite a few community questions, and there's been a lot of great ones. I think we should round it out with the typical question that we always ask at the end of the Pipeline podcast episodes. This is Monad in the morning, so it's a little bit different, but final alpha, applies here today. Kevin, you want to tee it up?
Sure. Here we go. Raj, I'm not sure if you've seen any episodes of The Pipeline or if you ever watched Up Only back in 2021, 2022 era. The final question we asked our guests is the final alpha. And I will spend about 30 seconds describing it to help you buy you some time to think of what your answer might be. But the final alpha is basically like maybe one piece of parting wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with. And it could be wisdom. It could be something smart. It could just be like a truth that you've held for a while, maybe some pattern recognition or an insight you've picked up over your time in the stablecoin space, in crypto, or just in life in general. We've had people tell jokes. We've had 4-word sentences and then just nothing after that. It really could be quite literally anything. We have not got a recipe yet, but that is usually an example I give of what it also could be. So yeah, anything that you would like to leave the audience with today as your final alpha.
Yeah, I mean, my brain's so focused on payments right now, so I'll probably stick to the payments theme here. But I just want to, I think share that we actually haven't seen innovation in the payment space in a very long time. Like the last thing that we've seen is, I don't know, maybe 2 decades ago, maybe when like e-commerce came about, is like when everyone was racing to get like Shopify stores, and like that was like maybe the last thing. But outside of that, we actually haven't really, like, even like Western Union's been around for almost a century and still exists today. Um, so we actually haven't really seen a lot of innovation in the payment space until open source blockchains and stablecoins. And so I think I would really encourage like, everyone to be like, hey, let's rethink this space from the ground up. Let's not like the past is like almost like a couple decades ago at this point, and we're moving into the future. And who knows what AI brings as well at the same time. If we have a bunch of agents transacting, they're going to likely want open source blockchains like Monad, right, to actually move payments and move money as well. So I think we just need to. I think there's a lot of opportunity to be creative, and there hasn't been a lot of innovation in the space, and that's our opportunity. And it's going to take incumbents a long time to really catch up.
There you go. AI agents will not have bank accounts, but they likely will have wallet addresses. A lot of stuff to look forward to. I know it's funny because it's like the least sexy thing in the world, but also like the most important thing pushing crypto adoption across the globe right now. Payments and stable coins. It's like the sleeping giant of crypto adoption. And I really, really think you're going to see this. Like, I think the next year looks like a frenzy for onboarding every single company to allow these payments to occur, every single person to be able to hold dollars instead of their currencies. It's almost like Bitcoin's initial thesis of like, this is a store of value. If you're in a place where the government is murdering your fiat, this is a flight to safety asset you can hold. US dollar also kind of plays that role, at least in the midterm. So yeah, really excited to see what the payment space does. Also excited to see how AI agents use them moving forward. Danny, anything left from you?
I don't know. Keone, do you want to do a final alpha? No pressure. I know you're really getting down the list there. This will probably be like the 10th final alpha, but if you want it, the floor is yours.
Did I already tell you that the thing that my history teacher once told me?
Not on stream.
Not on stream. Oh, okay. My history teacher would always say, "Who you marry matters." Excuse me. Let me just start over. Who you marry matters more than where you went to college.
Bingo.
Strongly agree.
Recently got a girlfriend. If you're watching this, that is alpha I'm going to be taking to heart.
Ooh.
That's good. I've always said it's like the most important decision you probably make in your life. Also, Pipelines recently got married.
Yes, and we've onboarded the wife into crypto, and soon we will be onboarding the wife into crypto payments on chain. So very, very, very excited about that for sure. Couldn't agree more. This has been an awesome episode. Really excited to have had the opportunity to hear firsthand from Raj, who is joining the Monad Foundation now as head of stablecoins and payments, as well as Keone. Always a pleasure. Really, really exciting week. Lots to look forward to. We've taken some great questions from the Monad community, and we'll spin the wheel and give out some prizes to those community members who asked great questions today. Raj and Keone, no pressure to stick around for that. Of course, you're always welcome to. But thanks so much for the time, Raj, Keone, as well as the Monad community for the insightful questions and for keeping us company in the chat for the last hour and a half. We'll have to run this back soon as we get more and more updates on the payment side of things and stablecoin adoption. But yeah, this has been awesome. So thanks again.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
How does this wheel transition work now, Danny?
So, well,
we've never done this format before.
Yeah,
Usually
this
the
is a new
wheel's
format.
built in.
It is a new format. We normally spin the wheel as the show goes along. I've added a couple new prizes to the wheel today, and I think we just go down the list here and we spin for the community members whose questions were asked live on stream today. So first up is going to be Mirth Mono, and we'll spin the wheel for you and see what your prize is. It's going to be rapid fire spin the wheel today.
Yeah.
All right.
It's dark purple. Can't read
Can't
it.
see that.
Pipeline hat.
Pipeline hat.
There
for
you go.
Mirth Mono.
Just like this, but not this one because that's Danny's.
Yeah, not this exact one. You probably don't want that one anyways, but Mirth Mono, we got a pipeline hat coming your way. Let's see here. Up next, we have amazing Eric Erich, longtime Monad in the Morning listener and super fan.
I would also mention if you saw any really good clips that went out on Twitter, that was also a way that you could potentially win. So drop them in the chat, Savant or Mike Webb. We'll pick them up. They have to actually be good.
Also, shout out to Savant and Mike Webb holding down the fort in the chat, identifying those banger questions from the community. This is it's such a unique opportunity, I think, to be able to have Raj and Keone on the show and to be able to directly ask them your questions off the backs of honestly one of the biggest announcements in the Monad ecosystem or even crypto more broadly this year. That's to me a very exciting opportunity. So really, really grateful to Keone and Raj, as well as the amazing questions coming in from the community. This one is for amazing Eric or Erich.
Single spin.
I think it's Rich. Oh,
Random testnet NFT.
so close to James's car.
Very close
So
to James's car.
Very close. Okay. Testnet NFT for amazing Erich. Thank
Hammer it
you
again.
for the
Kutzal.
question. For Kutzal the Holy. Here we go.
A pipeline VIP status.
Ooh, okay. That's a newer addition to the wheel. Kutzal the Holy is getting VIP status, which is essentially a VIP role in the Pipeline Twitch chat. So
It's
when
one
you come back next week, you'll be a VIP. Kutzal the Holy.
small step for your internet clout but one enormous step for moving up in the world. There's 8 billion people, and it's one
Al-
large list, and Kutsal just moved up the list.
Although he's in the likes of Chaos Walker, so it might not be a great thing.
Well,
Yep.
this one, this
Chico.
one for Chico Arose _NAD, a great question about partnerships and acquisitions. Love it.
Integrations.
Oh, this is not good. I don't have good leverage here.
A little bit of leverage.
James's car.
James's
we
car.
go.
Wow, we no repeats too. This is going
wow.
pretty
See,
well.
we fixed the wheel.
The wheel
Oh.
is cooperating today for sure.
I just realized we haven't done an early 2000s movie reference yet. So the early 2000s movie reference for today, a 2001 film, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Jack Sparrow is locked in prison, and Will Turner says he'll get him out. He goes, these pins are this is a half hinge pin. All you need is a little bit of leverage. So Danny, a little bit of leverage on the wheel for our next spin, please. Had to get the movie reference in there.
Little bit of leverage for the wheel, little bit of leverage for your portfolio. That certainly never hurt anybody.
Hit the leverage slider for who's up
Henry
next.
58-29-0. I'm gonna say let's do a double spin for Henry because we asked at least 2 of Henry's questions on the show, maybe even 3. So Henry,
Go. Little bit of leverage, Mr. Sparrow.
An RBS hat.
RBS
Ooh.
hat. That might be the best hat in the Monad Eco. Those hats are sick, just rare.
yeah, there's a couple different versions of them. Jessup has the black hat with the white logo. I've got the
cool-
two-toned hat with the purple logo.
Sick.
And very fitting. Rarebet is clearly very excited about the Portal acquisition. Saw the Rarebet handle in the chat,
They
and
were.
you know, it's super fitting for apps like Rarebet to be able to take payments in local currency and just seamlessly onboard new users from all over the globe to Rarebet. I know they're working on
Zacky's in the
adding-
chat right now.
Of course. Shout out Zachy.
Shout out Zachy.
Founder Rarebet Sports. And yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of exciting updates there. So this one's for Henry.
No, we just said Henry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
second
Henry
one.
gets a double.
Henry
Yeah,
again.
it's double. I don't
Henry, round 2.
Respin. Triple spin.
Respin.
for
almost
we have not had a single duplicate.
It was
has
close
never
to the
happened.
RBS hat again, but
Maybe this is the format that we do the wheel
a
on.
lever. Yes.
Lever PSP.
Lever
PSP.
Point
PSP.
system.
Banger. I hope Henry likes sports wagering because he's getting a Rarebet hat and he's getting an
gonna have
onboard
everything.
to the Lever app. Super exciting. Lever's another app that certainly will benefit from the Portal acquisition here. And Henry's going home with some awesome prizes. So shout out Henry 58-29-0. Next up, Sin Darity asked a great question about Portal impacting the speed, cost, and availability of cross-border stable payments and ensuring mass adoption amongst financial institutions, which we know is going to happen and we are very excited for. So
Give it a
thanks,
little bit of leverage. Dan.
Sindarity, for the great question. I'm going to give you some leverage on the wheel here. Wrist leverage.
If this isn't a double, I'm gonna freak out.
Respin.
Okay, and that's a double too. All right. Thank God.
Double, respin, Sindarity. Kevin, take it away.
Pipeline follow.
All right.
Oh wow, dude, we might hit every prize on the wheel today.
Pipeline follow coming your way, Sindarity. Chico Arose asked another question. So Chico Arose _NAD getting another spin. Intern, hit it with the leverage.
Pipeline hat.
Another pipeline hat coming at you live. Wait, Chico didn't get 2 pipeline hats, did he?
I don't know, Danny's.
No, Henry 58-29-0 got the other pipeline hat. So
Okay,
we're
right.
sending one to Chico Arose _NAD as well.
And then
If I had my way, everyone would have a pipeline hat. but maybe
Monad for
maybe we'll
you,
get there
for you.
eventually.
So also, I wanted to make something clear because Monkey Luffy, you're up next. People were saying in the chat, they're like, you can't even pronounce it. It's Monkey D Luffy. Everyone was freaking out. I'm like, you don't know the rules of the show.
Sasuke.
The rules of the show, we follow them very strictly. We never break the rules of the show, but we also make the rules of the show. And so the rules are, we pronounce it however it seems fit, and you can either keep it or you can be like Sasuke, who we mispronounced allegedly or pronounced it correctly, change their personality to be Sasuke. So Monkey Luffy, it's up to you. We're going to give you a spin. Would love to see you back next week. I wonder if that D is going to be in the middle next week. We're not quite sure. We will find out later. But before that, we'll find out your prize.
And if you do, well, I'll wait till we announce this prize first.
Monad
Monad
swag.
swag. Dude,
Ooh, that's
Monkey
great.
Luffy getting some Monad swag.
Monad swag, full swag kit coming your way. Monkey Luffy minus the D. If you are a winner of a prize today on Monad in the Morning, please shoot Savant a DM on Twitter at SSSAVANTTT, I believe. But you should be following him already. He is a superstar here on the Monad Media Machine.
Were there any
team.
clips that? Did we see any clips?
Did any clips roll in?
We can also look at those retroactively and front load some spins for next week. But yeah, I mean, I think we've been talking to a lot of video creators in the Monad community, both those creating original content as well as those clipping. And I think it's a huge opportunity. There's many more creators coming into crypto and creating content, whether that's podcasts, live streams, short videos, or anything in between. And you don't necessarily need to create original video content to grow your profile, grow your mind share. So strongly suggest anyone who's tuning in on these streams, if you're looking to also grow your following, your footprint in the space, clip it, throw it up on Twitter with tools like CapCut and the basic clipping features directly in Twitch. It's super, super easy, and it's a great way to spread some of the highlights of the show and some of the key moments and great bits that we want to blast out there. So,
but I do want to just add on to that. Like, if you actually download the clip and then go and cut it up and make it creative, there's like a higher chance of getting more visibility on it. If you just are taking exactly what we, pieced from the episode and then throwing that up, like, anybody can do that. And I think if you want to really stand out, those are kind of opportunities. Like, I've seen some on TikTok that are now starting to surface, and people are taking like different angles and rearranging it in the vertical format. There's a lot of like cool creative things that you can do. You can even make creative edits, like aura clips and aura edits. Like, there's just things that you can do to set yourself apart that will give you a higher chance of virality and, growing your mind share.
So I know when people clip Gainsies, they just clip the normal thing. They basically screen record it and throw it up on Twitter. Can be really good if it's a good clip. I would say if there's an opportunity, because there's not one person who's going above and beyond and clipping this and like doing the cool edits. If you are doing that, like, this show is basically gonna become about you. Like, all the engagement we get, we're gonna be like, go follow this guy. This
100%.
guy's coming up with every good clip. Like, this is what we want to see. Quote tweets from the Pipeline account. Like, we're all gonna comment on all your stuff. Like, the fastest way that you could get a massive following, specifically on Twitter, is if you go in and clip some of this stuff. We're dying for it. We know there's talent out there that can do it. And we have a lot of attention that we can shove at people that are doing it. So take that opportunity, add a little bit of leverage, and put it out into the internet.
Speaking of leverage, we have another spin for
Oh.
0x Astronomica. We cannot forget 0x Astronomica. So put some leverage on that wheel and let's see what this prize is.
The chat is also saying I'm clip shaming.
I I don't know. I actually
A respin.
for 0x Astronomica. I want to double click on that, Jessup, because I actually
Main account block.
Goodbye, Astronomica. The
Oh,
rules
brutal.
are the rules.
Imagine
All right.
that. You come to the show, you ask a great question, you hang out to the end to get your prize, and then you get the block hammer.
But you guys know the rules. First person to put Astronomica's Twitter in the chat gets a spin. It can be Astronomica, but there is a bounty on Astronomica's
Astronomica,
Twitter
this
account.
is your opportunity to reverse it because there is a
main account follow.
yeah.
You could go from blocked to followed in a heartbeat.
Imagine that.
Oh,
Vivium. Wait, is that actually it? That's just the name.
I mean, that
Let me
would
check.
be
I will check.
that would make sense.
I'm pretty good.
Chaos. I'm not snitching.
Yeah, right. Chaos. I might block you just for saying that.
But back to Jessup's comment about clip shaming. It's not it's not about being negative. It's more so about like raising the bar for the ecosystem as a whole. And we
for
being
the
the
Clipper.
monad community, the monad ecosystem of builders and developers and applications, like if we don't put the bar really high for ourselves, then we're ultimately never going to be successful. And we have to be real about that. So it's great that people are experimenting and trying things. We love to see that for sure. That is the 0 to 1 step. But how do you get from 1 to 100? Well, that's the harder challenge. And it definitely requires experimentation and practice and iteration and advice and feedback and just this constant pursuit of leveling up, regardless of what you're trying to do, whether you're building an app or whether you're clipping a live stream. So
I would love to see some of these people making an income through revenue coming from just posting on these platforms. Like that would be sick.
yeah,
Danny mentioned going from 0 to 100. There's also one very easy way to go from 0 to -1, and it's by winning the main account block. Goodbye, Astronomica. You are blocked. VVEM
IEM, VVIEM,
3
VM is going to get a spin here.
with some leverage.
It'd be hilarious if it was a block, but
Oh, whoa.
It was on the purple.
I know, but does that count if I pulled it and it changed?
it's a respin or a monad hat.
Monad hat.
You're just gonna go with the monad hat.
Gonna go with the monad hat. The rules are the rules. Everyone knows the rules, especially after they're created.
And the rules are to DM Savant if you have won a prize. If you did not win a prize and you choose to DM Savant as an imposter, you will at the very least be blocked by main account, maybe blocked by all of the accounts. It just makes us just gives us a headache. So respectfully request that you only reach out to Savant if you did win a prize, and we will get those out as soon as possible. But sometimes it does take us a little bit
to ship physical hats too.
Correct.
Tens
to
of people.
distribute all the prizes. And if we owe you a prize from a previous week and that is actually true, please do reach out. We will get to that and appreciate the reminder. So yeah, this is I think we're coming up on the end of our show here, but this is Monad in the Morning, episode 20. Definitely the best yet. I'm super, super excited about not only the portal announcement, but to actually see this come to fruition and to have my family and friends and all these people that are not in crypto leveraging stable coins for payments on Monad. And certainly that goes without mentioning the frictionless onboarding for decentralized crypto native apps on the Monad protocol. This is just huge, huge stuff.
Yeah, I also realized I forgot to ask Raj one question I actually really wanted to ask him in person. Would have been good on the show. He's like, he built this. Now there's millions of daily settlement happening on Portal. Like every day, millions of dollars are flowing through Portal and being used for payments. I wanted to ask, like, how do you do that? Yeah. That's so much. Like, that's a lot of money flying around. That's like
And also
100,000 coffees, maybe
yeah,
more, depending on where you're buying coffee.
yeah. I certainly
New York is a little less.
Yeah.
I certainly can't give an answer to that, but it is really interesting to think about if crypto is at the level of adoption it's at today, and Portal's already doing millions of dollars in daily settlement. What does this look like 6 months in the future, 12 months in the future?
Oh, I'll tell you, Danny.
Tell me.
Billions of dollars of daily settlement powered by a decentralized EVM, L1, high throughput, low latency, built by high frequency trader blockchain. It's purple. You know the name. I had a bunch of water and a Celsius. I got to go to the bathroom. We got to wrap this
Before
up.
we go,
Oh,
one thing
geez.
that we normally do on the end of these shows is the final apple. I mean, alpha. But no one's ever heard your guys' final alpha. So, Kevin, go first because I know you got to pee. So,
Danny, you go first. Let me think of one because I want to.
I actually literally was going to close out the show with some final apple, which is the Monad project is incredibly unique, and that cannot be overstated. I tweeted earlier this week a version of the classic meme where you have one guy on the sunny side of the bus and he's smiling, and you have one guy on like the cloudy side of the bus and he's upset. And I captioned above each of those characters, I knew about Monad early. And the difference is what, like theoretically, what those two individuals do with that information of knowing about Monad early. Just knowing about Monad early is certainly cool, but it doesn't really allow you to capitalize on the true opportunity that Monad presents. And everyone who's watching this stream or who's aware of Monad in any capacity has the opportunity to get involved and help decentralization eat the world. This is going to happen on Monad. If there's not enough social proof pre-mainnet already, I don't know what to tell you. There's going to be more, but seize this opportunity. Don't do it because I told you to do something. Don't do it because Kevin or somebody else in the community or on the foundation team told you to seize this opportunity. But bring your natural skills and talents and the things that you like to do to the Monad ecosystem and capitalize on being early to an ecosystem that is going to bring decentralization to the entire world. It is the all-in-one environment. It is the crypto endgame. It is the future of the EVM and decentralized permissionless systems. That is my final apple. Do with it what you will.
My final apple is going to be read more books. Read more.
mine is if you're building a consumer app and you don't have a TikTok strategy, you are cooked.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Monad in the Morning, episode 20. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next week on Throughput Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. In just 11 minutes, Cryptunes is starting his weekly space. So if you are looking for more Monad community action, go hop in Tunes' space. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll catch you next time.